Welcome, everybody. We're just going to give a few more minutes to have some more attendees join before we kick off our panel discussion today. All right, we'll get started. Thanks for joining us today for our inaugural panel discussion on the topic of food safety. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Lydia Olu-Harding, and I lead our customer-focused organization of success and support here at Zenput. I'm excited to be here today in the company of some influential leaders in the industry to help share their knowledge and illustrate the value that they have captured or are on the road to capturing through a connected Zenput solution. But before we dive into speaking with our panelists today, let me cover a few housekeeping items. Our panel discussion is slated to take about 30 minutes, and which will leave us about 15 minutes for questions with all of you at the end. The chat feature you should see on the sidebar is available for you to ask questions at any point during this discussion, and we'll be monitoring them that come in. And Nick Hokinson is joining us today as well as our proctor, and he may jump in to ask a question if it adds color to our discussion. Otherwise, we're going to queue them up and discuss at the end. So let's kick off with some introductions. I've got Peyton Whitty here. He joins us from RPM Pizza, which is the largest Domino's franchise for over 40 years in the US. Peyton, please take a few minutes to share your role with RPM Pizza, your organization's food safety focus, and how long your team has been using Zenput.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Peyton Whitty. I'm the field training manager and food safety specialist for RPM Pizza. My team's main focus is operations assessment and coaching, along with food safety and pandemic awareness, which is new. I have 17 years total with Domino's, and 7 of those years have been spent on the support side, dealing with food safety and operations assessment. We've used Zenput for about 5 years now. We currently use the main platform for tracking and reporting, as well as Zenput labels, and we're testing out thermometer sensors. We use them at all of our 200 locations, and I'm excited to talk about food safety today.
Awesome. Thanks, Peyton. Next, we're joined by Tara Stevenson with Burger King Americas and Nicholas Canonis with Burger King EMEA. Tara and Nicholas, can you share your role with Burger King, how you interact with food safety, and where you and the team are on your Zenput journey? We'll start with you, Tara, and then over to Nicholas.
Hey, hi. Yes, thank you, Lydia. I'm Tara Stevenson with Burger King Americas, and my role on our team is the Ops Execution Manager. So pretty much making sure our restaurants are executing on the proper things from an operations standpoint, things like taking correct temperatures of food. And that's why we're working so hard on rolling out the Zenput platform and application in all of our restaurants all over the world. We've been working with Zenput since the summer of last year. Excited to say that we're getting ready to roll out the platform in our restaurants here before the end of the year. So we're kind of in the thick of it right now.
And hi, everyone, from my side as well. My name is Nicholas. I've been with Burger King and RBI for the last 4 years, which before seemed a lot. Now, compared with Peyton's introduction for the 70 years, doesn't seem that much. But yeah, I've been with Burger King the last 4 years. The first 3, I was working for the Ops field, managing Middle East and Africa, then moved on to manage the South Division in EMEA, which is basically the largest franchisees in the region. And then from there, I transitioned in the training and operation innovation, managing everything related with the training, which of course includes input and innovation, any new products and how these are going to be rolled out in the restaurants. And as part of this, we've been heavily involved with the training, as training overall with Zenput, because one of the first priorities is to make sure the platform is launched successfully, it's developed. So currently, we've been mainly focused in reviewing the food safety, making sure brand standards and all the logs, all the routines we're going to have are according to our standards, and making sure that the platform is set up correctly overall.
Thanks, Tara and Nicholas. Last but certainly not least, Rencha Smith joins us from Taco Bell Europe. Rensha, can you tell me your Zenput journey and your role with Taco Bell?
Hi guys, nice to meet you. I work for Taco Bell UK and Europe. I've been with Taco Bell for 3 years. I've spent about 17 years of my career as a food safety professional within the food industry. 7 of those years are spread across KFC South Africa and Taco Bell UK and Europe. My main focus is farm to fork, ensuring the highest quality ingredients reach our restaurants. Through Zenput, which we are the newbies, we've recently launched the Zenput platform. We have focused on regulatory and brand standard compliance within the Zenput platform. Similar to the rest of the food safety professionals here, a big part of our role is making sure that operations is easy, and through Zenput, validating ingredients, making sure temperatures are recorded, and that we serve up trust in every bite to our guests. Thank you.
Outstanding, thank you. So I hope all of you are as excited as I am to hear from these great panelists today. Let's start with some ground setting. I'll ask a few of you to share some of the more important food safety processes that you track in Zenput now or will be soon in the near future. And what's the project or process and why it's so important to you? Nicholas, let's start with you.
So one thing, actually the first thing that comes in mind, and I think one of the most important, is about the requirement to have the beef cookout logs taken every day, multiple times per day in the restaurants. And the reason this is, of course, because of food safety, and also we need to make sure that we do what's right for the guest. But at the same time, considering that we have significant amount of restaurants, significant markets, we're talking about 15 plus markets that we are launching with Zenput. We have 3-4 logs per day in a lot of markets. We have different products in each market. Even for the products that are the same, we might have different temperatures. So we have a lot of different markets, a lot of different products, and of course, a lot of different requirements and regulations. And that's one thing that is, I believe, really critical. And that's something that we can heavily leverage also on the attributes that the Zenput platform offers us currently, mainly because it can help us a lot automate a procedure that we were working and we had in the past, but it was way more static, meaning that we couldn't have these dynamic attributes that we have now, making sure that we can fast, easy, monitor and track whatever every market is doing, and as easily go and implement any changes needed. So I think that's a big focus for us, and it's something that we really want to focus, and we need to make sure we do it the best that we can.
Thanks, Nicholas. How about you, Rensha?
For Taco Bell, as I mentioned, our main focus in phase 1 of launching the Zenput app was focused on brand standard and regulatory compliance. So those are our food safety inspections that we do across multiple hours throughout a working shift, making sure that temperatures are recorded, products are safe. The visibility through the Zenput platform in seeing real-time data at our fingertips gives us the assurance that our teams are doing the right things, actioning the correct tasks. So that was very good for Taco Bell when we launched. Also positive feedback from our field operators in the ease of the platform. Tedious processes has been eliminated through paper practices. In terms of pest inspections, we've been able to add some triggers that notify us whenever the brand might be at risk. So really hands-on approach throughout the Zenput platform. Phase 2 for Taco Bell in the UK is to implement the Bluetooth thermometer temperatures that is automated through into the checklists. And then also looking at the communications platform within Zenput, how do we improve how we speak to multiple franchise partners out in the field? Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Peyton, I know RPM has some expanded use cases that you shared with us a bit earlier with the connected Zenput solution. Could you please share some more detail with that with us?
Absolutely. So one of the ways we've used Zenput mainly for food safety has been temperature logs, and it's been amazing. But in order to make it even easier, we've been testing out the sensor thermometers, which we're hoping to roll out to all of our locations. They not only automate everything, which makes everything easier, they also have a great corrective action and fail-safe system using alerts as well as auto-assigning tasks, both at the restaurant level and the supervisory level. So that not only gives you a paper trail for compliance, but it also makes it really easy for the store or the restaurants to self-diagnose or escalate the issue if needed. We also use the Zenput label platform for shelf life dating. It makes it so much easier because instead of the stores having to manually date, meaning they have to both know the knowledge and take the time to write the dates out, they can use the Zenput label platform, which just prints out a water dissolvable sticker that they can then use on all of their food dating. And both of those have both made compliance so much simpler, as well as the store's lives a lot easier.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So now, given these use cases that you all just shared, how has using Zenput and technology changed your confidence level that food safety work is done right? And also, has it changed how you oversee compliance across your stores? Rancho, I'll pass it off to you to share some higher level impacts with Taco Bell.
So for me, definitely sleeping easier at night, knowing that the right focus and attention is given to food safety. The beauty of Zenput has been not just focusing on food safety, which is the most important part, but also quality. So for Taco Bell, we use the Zenput platform to simplify a quality product logging process, which is an easy step-by-step process our managers can follow on the go. This gives me the visibility to quality across the whole estate. It helps me spot trends. It helps us protect our guests by eliminating the use of product that might not be in full quality compliance. It's just also great feedback from the field that this is an improved process where historically they had to do it in different stages and then end up in an office adding everything into an email. This is now a simplified process through Zenput and goes up to our supplier level that aids investigation and prevention of things like this happening.
Thanks. Peyton, how about you and the team at RPM?
So Zenput has really connected all of our stores into one unit. Everything that's done technology-wise is already, of course, tracked, but this helps us track everything that people have to do, whether it's the temperature logs that we manually did in the past, or the fact that it's going to eventually be automated for us now. We also use it for cleaning and sanitation logs, both for compliance with our inspections, as well as keeping the stores clean and the customers safe. We also have even started using it from pandemic awareness, whether it's having team members check their temperatures before clocking in, or just getting updates on their different daily cleaning processes. Some things have changed from, having to clean the store and sanitize every couple hours to maybe every hour, as well as adding touch points to clean. So it makes it so that from a store level, everything is so much easier at their restaurants. And then from a supervisory level, it can be checked in at any time from any location without having to make the operation stop to update you or having to go to each restaurant location in each market in person. So it's made it a lot simpler.
Awesome. Tara, I know that you're close to being live and rolling out with Burger King Americas and the larger RBI brand, but any insight to share here of what you foresee for the future for your teams?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, our customers trust us, right, to serve them a product that is not going to make them sick. So we got to make sure that it's in temperature. And one thing that's really important to us as the franchisor is to make sure our franchisees have a platform to be able to run their restaurant operations well, and to be able to trust that their restaurants are getting it right. So we've heard, in this business, it's hard to make everybody happy, but we've heard nothing but positive things from the teams out there and from the operators out there that have been on Zenput already and that are using it in their restaurants. And they're able to see into their restaurants like they've never been able to see before. Imagine you have a restaurant in a remote location that you can't get to very often. And Zenput allows the operators and allows the ARLs to be able to see how that restaurant is performing, how their equipment is keeping temperature, how their food is keeping temperature, and making sure that our guests are staying safe.
That's great insight. Now, I know many of us would love to be attending this user conference in person, but however, this COVID-19 pandemic just continues to affect us all in our business execution. So how has this pandemic affected how you manage food safety? And can you share a recent change or update you made across your organization? Tara, I'm going to toss this back to you because you kind of hit on it a little bit with some of your remote locations and ability to getting access to them. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah. So, when the pandemic hit, it kind of halted a lot of travel, right? It halted a lot of our visits into the restaurants. A lot of people were not, visiting their teams as often in order to reduce the spread and adhere to social distancing. So being able to roll out a digital platform that allows them to be able to see in the restaurant without actually having to set foot in the restaurant, and also communicate with the teams through announcements, through the comment features, and through pulling those reports, it really made a huge difference. And they're able to use this a lot more often. So you don't have to really go in there and set foot in the restaurant and talk to the team. You can communicate through this platform. So I'd say that it helps tremendously with being able to do that.
Awesome. Nicholas, do you have any additional insight to share from an EMEA perspective?
So I just continuing what actually Tara was just saying, just to give one example of things that are changing is that before we didn't have any enhanced COVID protocols. Before we didn't even know that we needed to have something like that. Now we have it. And not only we have it, but each market has different regulations. Sometimes not even each market. Within each market, we have different regions having different regulations, having different standards, having different requirements. So that makes the way we manage the COVID situation and the restaurants way more complicated, way more complex. And I think it all goes back to the fact that we have been managing the markets in a certain way. We haven't been using static forms. We have been tracking the system the best way we could. But I think also that's something that we are going to be able to change in the future. We are able to go change forms and have real-time visibility on how the forms are performing, what are the questions we're asking, what are the requirements on the form. So that's what excites me greatly. The fact that we are going to be able to leverage a lot of these attributes now for the future. And also the fact that we have to do it, because before we used to go way more often to the restaurants. Now, a lot of us have realized that a lot of things we can do it as equally good, not perfect. We still need to visit restaurants, but a lot of things we can actually do them by having this oversight of the stores in the digital or even virtual experience. And that's something that we didn't know before we could do. A lot of the technologies have improved significantly, and I think that's something that, again, things are going to go back to normal to a certain extent, but also some things are going to be different. And these are some things that we need to figure out how to do it in the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Our future is going to definitely be a different state. And I'm sure we could talk about a lot of impacts that we've had of the pandemic, but let's focus a little bit forward on the future. And I'm curious to know how you see food safety changing as a function in the coming years and in this constantly changing world. Rensha, let's hear your thoughts for Europe and potentially global impacts.
Yes, so food safety compliance and regulations are ever changing. It's basically an evolution, and it is focused with the end aim of protecting the consumer, right? So this is not going to stop here. We're going to always have to update, change, and tweak our standards to be the best and have the highest standards. So a good example here in the UK is, for example, Natasha's Law, which is directly linked to allergen management, and it is how we manage prepackaged food for direct sale. That's just another update and another adaptation we have to make and simplify operations for our teams out through being compliant to ever-changing regulations. So I don't think it's going to stop here. And with Zenput, it gives us that ease in our mind that we can easily adapt and be compliant.
Thanks, Rensha. Peyton, how do you foresee some things changing for food safety?
So even before the pandemic, with social media, food safety has already started to advance a lot more than in recent years. Every consumer basically has a camera in their phone, and that puts everyone on stage. As both the customer and the government gets more advanced technology, we're going to have to adapt on those technological levels as well. Like a recent change here in the US is in all of my markets, every manager is now required to be an ANSI food manager certified, whereas in the past it's been more like one per restaurant. So that's changed a lot of ways we have to do training. And as the FDA in the US, as the FDA food code gets updated, they're more and more pressuring states to adopt that. So as guidelines get updated, states will more likely be following those than in the past. Another thing that's been about to change soon is that HACCPs and vulnerability assessments are really being pushed to be mandatory versus optional. So that's just another thing in food safety that as time goes on, it's going to be probably more and more states here in the US.
Great. I appreciate all of the insight that you guys are sharing with us. So I want to kind of end our planned panel discussions on a hopeful question for all of you. I'm going to ask this question and then we'll go around the screen, starting with you, Peyton. So the question is, if you could snap your fingers and help every store do one thing perfectly every day, what would that thing be and why?
I would keep it really simple. I would want them to do hand washing perfect every time. Especially in this day and age, most team members wash their hands now, but it's not always the right length of time. It's not always the right technique. It's not always the right supplies at their hands. So I would really want hand washing done perfectly.
I can jump in to respond as well. So I'm going to keep it, I think, simple, but also way more generic. I would just wish that everyone would just follow the standards, because all the big brands have standards. They have teams that set these standards. We have QA, we have food safeties, we have teams that are working to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And I believe that everyone wants to do the right thing, and everyone wants to make sure that the guests feel safe when they're coming to the restaurant. Yeah. So we have, and we are building the base, the foundations to make this happen. What we need to work and we need to do more is make sure that everyone is following the standards. And I know it's something difficult in some cases, especially when you're working in a restaurant. It's difficult than us talking about it, but also it's the right thing to do. So for me, I think that's really, really important.
If I can jump in there, for me, it would be detailed cleaning. And I agree with Nicholas, reading the standards and following the standards. We make it so easy for them and use Zenput as a platform to simplify it even more. So detailed cleaning, hand washing, all of the practices are equally important. So Tara, over to you.
Yeah, I'm probably going to sound like such an ops person saying this, but 100% order accuracy. Who doesn't want that in the food industry? So every single time the guest comes in, they get the right order and it's hot.
These are great. Well, that wraps up our panel questions that we've got for today. And we'd love to open up the floor to bring questions in from all of you. So Nick, if you could join us on the virtual stage and share what questions we've received with our panelists.
Hi, yeah, we had a couple of questions pop in here during the session. And then of course, if there are any other questions here, please feel free to add those. The first question we got was, what's the biggest challenge you face for food safety and how are you addressing it?
Anyone want to grab that one?
I'll jump in. For our restaurants, it's definitely volume. With the pandemic, sales have gone sky high and the staffing is not any improved as before the pandemic. So we have less people with more sales. So sometimes things go to the wayside. And so food safety is definitely something that's got to stay on the top of their minds, even as, they're getting in the weeds.
Yeah, can I add on what Peyton was saying? Peyton, I definitely agree. I think that staffing is a huge piece of that. As far as food safety is concerned, when you have, the staffing issues that the food industry is facing now, it's less people performing the same amount of tasks, right? And so this puts a strain on them. So this is the biggest benefit of Zenput, making it easy and also making it faster for them to be able to perform these tasks rather than writing it down, going back to a computer, putting it in the computer. And it makes our job easier because we can make changes on the fly as regulations change. We can change our forms. We can add forms for our restaurants to get immediately rather than maybe waiting a few days or a week for the update, or even sending an email notification, or it can go straight to the tablet if there's a recall or something like that. It's a really quick way for our restaurants to be able to perform these tasks. So I think that, even with the staffing issues, Zenput helps with that.
Love to hear that. The other question we had was, if you actually uncover a food safety issue, how do you go about dealing with it?
That's a great.
Sorry, go for it, Nicholas.
No, please.
I'd say just the visibility for Taco Bell, we've implemented triggers. So whenever there is a food safety emergency, which is predefined within Zenput, a trigger gives us the first visibility. We then intervene. We can support the teams, take the right steps and actions, and get everything back on track and compliant. Therefore, not only protecting the brand, but also essentially protecting our teams and our guests.
I should have jumped in on the first question. It was way more easy. So, I want to just add one additional thought here, that there's Zenput is amazing in helping us identify the problem, helping us identify what are the triggers, what are the things we should act. Coming to how these are going to be resolved here, I believe this is more traditional. This is something that needs to happen with the restaurants. This needs to happen with the teams. This needs to happen from the district manager and the people that are visiting the restaurant. So Zenput is great because you can have a great visibility on how your restaurant is performing, what are the issues in the restaurants, but ultimately it's all going to come down to the teams visiting restaurants, performing some root cause analysis, understanding exactly what are the issues, what are the priorities, what's the first things we need to solve. So I think that in resolving any food safety issues, eventually we will need to go and see how the restaurants are performing the tasks.
Excellent, thank you. Those are all the questions that we have come in today. So Lydia, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Anything else from all of you as our panelists today that you want to add in before we close up?
I just want to add.
Thank you very much for
Sorry, everybody wanted to add something. I apologize.
I've always been big on processes, and one of my roles has always been to create systems. And I've created over my tenure with Domino's 1 million different forms. And one thing about Zenput is I no longer have to make 1 million different forms for this store or that restaurant, because it connects everybody. And as everyone else mentioned, that when you have an update, you don't need to make a whole new form. You just have to make a tweak to the existing form, and it's instantly at everyone's fingertips.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I just want to say thanks for having us and letting us, talk about our experience with the platform. Since we've started this whole process, we've had nothing but great people from the Zenput team that's working with us. And believe me, I know it hasn't been easy. There have been some late nights, some weekends, and many requests from our side. But they happily join every meeting, and we're probably 3 to 4 meetings in a day, and everybody always comes, with fresh ideas and willing to help. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, Tara. Nicholas, anything from you? I know you were jumping off mute.
Yeah, I was saying the same. Thanks a lot for hosting us, and that's it.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have today. And just a quick shout out, we've got surveys that are going around. If you can take a moment and please try and fill that out, give us feedback of how we can continue to connect with all of you as a community in our future user conferences. That'd be great. So we're now we're ending a little bit early. And right after this is our break time during the conference. And then we'll be jumping into our product spotlight. And that starts at 1:15 p.m. Eastern or 10:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And please don't forget to also try and join our open networking session that's at the end of our conference today so that you can connect with other customers and attendees of our conference and share further insights with them. So really appreciate you all joining today, and hopefully you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thanks.
Thank you.